the visuals of the leader and visuals from a little while ago. We are waiting for the body to leave the hospital and be taken right now to the residence. But from what Sandhya is telling us, there does seem to be active politics on the ground at this point in the state of Tamil Nadu. The DMK cadre has scattered, they're throwing barricades from what we understand. The party mouthpiece is being used right now to perhaps gain a reaction from its cadre. And Stalin has put out a message.
Yes, and I think in light of what Sandhya just told us, it's politics on both sides. Because yes, on one hand, Stalin has come out and issued a statement of peace. But on the other hand, a channel which is owned by them, if it goes on to say that the government is doing it with an ulterior motive, it's obviously going to inflame passions of people who are rather emotional at this point of time. So obviously there is now politics on both sides. And there is an attempt, of course, to either take or deny some bit of leverage that you may have in a situation where clearly the state is not only has a political vacuum, but perhaps has a bit of a vacuum of wisdom as well on both sides. Well,
I'm going to go back to my panel at this point, because this is exactly the sort of thing one wouldn't want on an evening like this. And I just, you know, Rajesh Sundaram, who's joining us at this point, like I said in the beginning, it's not unusual for a sort of a violent reaction from party members who are mourning the death of a leader, which we've seen happen in the South in the past. But this seems like a situation that's being badly handled on both sides.
It does seem like a situation which is badly handled, because when it comes to these leaders, there's a lot of emotion around them, you know, especially with leaders like, say, MGR or Jayalalitha. Even when MGR passed away, there was violence on the streets. And if the government is not geared up to handle this and in a mature manner, things can, God forbid, can get out of control as well. So clearly, I think it's time for somebody who's a decision maker right now to step in and make sure that the situation does not go out of control, because these are very emotionally charged times, especially, you know, minutes, hours after Karunanidhi has passed away.
All right, Mohan Ram, go ahead, please.
Yeah. See, there is something which I'd like to tell people. 1969 was the first time that the Marina Beach was used to give a leader a resting place. It is not as if the Marina Beach has been used since independence. No. 1969 was the first time Annadurai passed away. He passed away as a sitting chief minister, yes. Then next to him, they created MGR Samadhi when MGR passed away. After that, people went to court and said, at this rate, you're going to convert the beach into a huge Samadhi place. So let's stop with that. And then the court at that time, I remember, said, I would like to be corrected if I'm wrong, said that no further acquisition of lands are possible. That was the order, which means that, okay, these two places, Anna Samadhi and MGR Samadhi, okay, no further places. Now to overcome that, they buried Jayalalitha, created her Samadhi as part of MGR Samadhi. They didn't acquire further land. No further land was taken away from the beach. The existing parcel of land was cut into convenient plots and made. Now the question is, they've come up with a statement saying that sitting chief ministers, and this is the protocol. What protocol? Who creates protocol? Protocol is made by the government for the people, by the people. Now, if 1 crore plus of DMK volunteers and people feel that their leader needs to be buried there, unless there is a court order prohibiting further burials, which must have happened only post Jayalalitha Madam's Samadhi, I can't think of any reason why they need to prevent this.
Well,
I can't think of a reason.
More information that's coming in. Some miscreants have pelted stones and damaged the windshield of an MTC bus, route number 61R between Red Hills and Valanur Junction a little earlier this evening. So there is, it's sporadic. It's almost, I mean, it's just a little more than cranky at this point, but it does seem like a situation that the state police is going to have to get under control very, very quickly. And it has the ability to escalate if not controlled. Correct?
Yes, and I think the gradual sporadic nature of this protest that is happening is also possibly linked to the information that is now must be spreading, because remember, this decision has just happened. The Chief Secretary's statement has just come about 20 minutes ago. So the information is now spreading, and obviously, as the information spreads, people will react differently in different places, depending on the strength of the cadre and wherever they have a little bit of a more of a stronghold.
Well, just before we picked up that information, I was reading through Girija Vaidyanathan's statement. Let me just read through the statement. She says that the DMK has asked for the following: Rajaji Hall for people to pay homage and burial at Anna Square at Kamraj Road. And she said the Chief Minister has examined and passed the following orders. Rajaji Hall has been provided to pay respects. One-day holiday declared on the day of the burial with full state honours and a 21-gun salute. The flag will be flown at half-mast in the state of Tamil Nadu. 7-day state mourning declared. All state government functions cancelled. And then it says, since there are a lot of cases pending in the Honourable High Court and there are technicalities involved in allotting the place of burial at Marina Beach on Kamraj Salai, to facilitate the burial, 2 acres of government land is being allotted for the late Shri Karunanidhi on Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel Road, opposite Anna University campus, near Gandhi Mandapam, at Rajaji Mandapam and Kamraj Memorial. So that's what she has said. And we do understand that the High Court had categorically passed an order saying no more land is to be acquired for memorials at Marina Beach. So the state government could be saying that it's following those orders. Yes, go ahead.
They could share Anna Samadhi.
See,
Anna Samadhi could be shared.
see,
That is what you did for MGR.
I would like to interfere here.
Yes,
That
go
MGR
ahead.
Samadhi was shared
I
for
would like to interfere
Jayalalitha.
here.
Yes, go ahead. Mr. Tirupati,
See, I
go
would like
ahead.
to come in here.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, see, the construction of permanent structures in Marina Beach, as per the Coastal Regulation Zone Notification 2011, it stops all these things. And this is, as I said in my first, phase, that Jayalalitha was buried inside MGR Samadhi only, MGR's memorial only. Those time also, last year also, there was a very big, discussions about this. There was a debate about this, disputes about this. And again, the corporation has not notified whether it is Anna Samadhi, that is Anna Memorial, or MGR Memorial, or Jayalalitha Memorial. It is not a place of burial ground. We all have to understand this. If at all there some place should be given, it should be inside Anna Memorial only, because DMK would not like to have a memorial inside Jayalalitha or MGR's memorial for Mr. Karunanidhi.
This is the information that's coming in right now. 1 minute, Mr. Tirupati. I forgive me for interrupting you, but breaking news coming in that DMK's moves Tamil Nadu High Court seeking Marina burial place for Karunanidhi. Extraordinary hearing sought at High Court tonight. It's going to be a long night. They're obviously not going to, and this was my first question, in fact, when we started the show, that they are not going to accept the alternative that has been offered to them by the state government in Guindy. They are not taking the Anna University option. They want the option at Marina, and they are going to appeal to the High Court to get that permission. Mr. C. Rajshekharan, as the advocate on the panel, I'm going to bring this to you. The DMK now moves Madras High Court, and they're going to ask for an immediate hearing tonight. What is your reaction to that?
Yes, they have got all the right to approach the Honorable Madras High Court, and I cannot speculate, or it's too hypothetical to answer this question, because I don't know how the courts are going to take view of this petition. And if at all the court takes a decision, it would be in the interest of the state and its people, and also the law. They cannot violate their own previous orders. So we have to wait and watch what is going to happen. So I don't want to jump the gun. And definitely Dr. Kalanger is one of the tallest, iconic leader. And whatever the government has allotted the place, it is up to the DMK to accept or reject. But they have got their right, legitimate right to approach the court and also plead to the higher ups of the administration and the government at the center too. So let us wait and watch. Okay. It's too early. The whole night we have got, and tomorrow we can also debate on what is going to happen.
Well,
at the court
from the information that I'm picking up, Mr. Rajshekharan, I don't believe we have all night really to debate this, because from what I understand, the DMK is going to knock on the doors of the Chief Justice tonight, asking for a special hearing. Vinay, this is politics now, because on one hand, information that's coming in. Yes, Mr. Rajshekharan, go ahead.
Faye, yes, they have got the right. In other cases also, we have approached the Chief Justice even at the middle of the night, and the Honorable Chief Justice was kind enough to accept the petition, hear it, and also depute some junior judges to hear it. So in this case, they have got all the right to approach the Honorable Chief Justice, and we have to wait what is going to happen next in the court at the Madras.
Right. Vinay, so on one hand, from what I understand, and this is more information that's coming in, the DMK is trying to get time from Justice Ramesh at his residence tonight. Anna University has declared a holiday. Once they get time, they're going to go over and meet meet the Chief Justice. This is information that's coming. So on one hand, we're getting information of violence in the streets, and on the other hand, the courts are going to be knocked at. So this is not going to be a short evening.
Yes, and I think there are just two things that come to mind straight away. As somebody who's perhaps not necessarily involved with one side or the other in the state politics, purely as an observer, there are two things that come straight to mind. If you have a situation in a state where you have to move a court to decide on a place of burial of a leader of a state, it's a pretty unfortunate or a sad day for morality or for basic decency in life. Having said that, the DMK's decision to move the court has two flip sides to it. Now, by going to the court, the DMK is pretty much bound by what the court says. So just hypothetically, if the court rules against Marina being used as a place for burial, DMK has no option but to then accept it. So now, by moving the court, they have kind of acceded to the fact that it is entirely possible that the court does not agree with the view that a separate place of burial can be given on Marina. So they would have lost that political battle in that sense. It's the battle where they would have been trying to make AIDMK look bad by denying it, that they would lose that if the court says that you cannot claim or use any part of Marina Beach for it. So in that sense, they are now going to be bound by what the court says whenever they're going to be here. So so clearly it means that the DMK's decision to go to the court is not just politics, but perhaps sentiment as well, because
they're just refusing to accept no as an answer. Mr. Pugleni has something to say. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Tell me. Hello?
Yes, you wanted to come in. You had a point to make. Go ahead, please.
Hello, not hearing. Hello?
Okay, all right. We'll fix that audio. Mr. Rajshekharan, here's the question. If there is unrest...
Shall I come inside?
All right, Mr. Mohan Ram, if there's unrest in the streets right now, there will be pressure. Is there pressure being built on... Yes, just one at a time, please, one at a time. My question is to Mr. Rajshekharan. Mohan Ram, I'll come to you. Mr. Rajshekharan, if there is unrest on the streets right now, does that build pressure on the Chief Justice and the entire process? Because on one hand, you have angry people, and on the other hand, a very important decision for the court to make.
No, definitely not. Because the Chief Justice of Madras or any Chief Justice of any High Court would be mentally prepared to deal the case on merits alone. All this pressure on streets and politics will not make any impact on any of the judges, be it a senior judge or a junior judge. And my friend Mohan Ram will also agree, and Tirupati will also agree. These kind of pressures will not or cannot influence any High Court judges or the Supreme Court judges too. They will stick with whatever the law says, and they will decide only on merits of the whole issue. So I have nothing against anybody. Let us wait. If the court orders, if the court says allot a place at the Marina, the government of the day has no other option but to make an allotment and ensure Dr. Kalanjar is buried within the structure of Anna, who is a great leader. But if the court says no, even the DMK has to...
which is what Vinay Tiwari was just saying, that perhaps because they're willing to take that risk, this is more sentiment than strategy, because once and I just want to read out more information.
No, that is...
Salem Old Bus Stop has begun to see some protests as well. Okay, go ahead. Mohan Ram, go ahead, please.
Let us Yeah, let us not forget that the court can very turn around and say, look, we have, excuse me.
No, Mr. Mohan Raman.
One second, let's one small point.
Yes, Mr.
The court, the court can very well turn around and say, look, we have already passed an order saying that Anna Samadhi, MGR Samadhi, these are the only two permitted things. Within that, whatever you want, let the government decide. It can turn the ball back into the government's backyard by saying, let the government decide. If it wants, it can give to Mr. Karunanidhi, it can give to anybody, that is their decision. Then where will the government go? Because they are citing some protocol about sitting chief minister vis-a-vis erstwhile chief minister. According to Mr. Somebody was mentioning that they saw it on WhatsApp, something about Mr. Karunanidhi denying Kamaraj his rightful place.
No, it was me.
No,
it was me,
I'm not, I don't know for a fact at all. Okay, whoever said it, I don't know. But all I am trying to say is, if the court turns and says, this, look, already they have taken away 1 acre or whatever it is from the beach, that is all. No further land can be acquired. But within that 1 acre, what you do, you go ahead and do. If the court turns around and says that, then where will the government go?
So actually,
No, not the government, the DMK. Not the government.
No, but it's a gamble being played on both sides at this point.
No.
Because the
government
court's
has to,
judgment
then it
will
becomes
have
the
to be
government's
accepted.
decision.
No, already
it becomes the government's
has passed an
decision.
order. A GO has been issued by the Chief Secretary of Tamil Nadu that they have allotted a 2-acre land near Gandhi Mandapam.
But Mr. Rajshekharan, do you believe that the state government here, by that allotment, has actually is gambling a little bit at this point? Because if they had said that why don't you use the land that is already being used for the Anna Salai Memorial, then perhaps they could have avoided all of this.
See, Faye, I don't want to attribute motives or political agendas for any order. But as per the government order passed by the present Edapadi Palanichami government, the Chief Secretary has issued an order, if I'm right.
Yes.
I have not seen it.
Yes.
But it clearly speaks what is law, what is the rule. So going by that merit, I think they are right.
I think I need some time
if they
here,
want
right?
to reconsider and change that order, it is
right,
the prerogative of the government of the day to change it also.
Mr. Narayan Tirupati of the BJP, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. See, number one is that legally there can be no more lands can be allotted for anybody's burial there. Number one. Number two, Jayalalitha, Jayalalitha's body was buried in MGR's memorial only. If at all Mr. Karunanidhi's last rites has to be done in Anna Memorial, then the problem of succession, that is the problem of who is followers of Anna. Annadurai is a leader for both DMK and AIDMK. There is a political problem. This has to be solved with Mr. Stalin and the leaders of AIDMK. Definitely, this is a problem, and the court has to, take a very hard decision on this. And I think we are into a big problem only, and we have to obey the law. I think the DMK has to be more magnanimous, as well as the AIDMK also, and we are in a grave situation. I think some good solution should come immediately. Now the tension should not be, flared up more.
All right,
and I think we should not do it.
Yes, the visual on your screen right now is live from Kaveri Hospital. This is the ambulance currently functioning as a hearse that is carrying the body of Mr. Karunanidhi. You'll see the crowds have really swelled outside that hospital, making that perhaps that journey is going to be a very lengthy one. Between the residents, it's a couple of kilometers. It's about 1 or 2 kilometers between the residents and the hospital, 2 kilometers. But it's going to take a fairly long time to cut across those 2 kilometers. But it does seem, Vinay, from the visual that we're looking at least, it seems like the police have, the human chain that the police has made to actually open that route, but they seem to have it under control.
Yes, and they seem to be calm, definitely. And I think that's perhaps good news, because the last thing one needs in a situation like this, when there is already grief and a lot of emotion, for things to get violent. So I think the good news is that it seems pretty calm. Except for that brief period when we saw some barricades being pushed around by the cadres outside, the crowd seems to be largely in control, even outside the hospital, which is perhaps where the most emotional at this point of time.
Well, we can see very heavy police bandobast there on that visual, and we will continue to bring you these live visuals. Just a note for our viewers, we are not going to bring you on Mirror Now any visuals of any sort of violence, because as per the guidelines of the News Broadcasters Association, we don't carry those visuals live because it runs the risk of inflaming more passions. What we will bring you though are live visuals of the ambulance moving and updates of whatever is happening in the city of Chennai and the state of Tamil Nadu. We'll bring you written updates, we won't bring you visuals of what is happening, but it does seem like people are calm outside the hospital at least, and that ambulance is in fact moving. Vinay?
Yes, and I think the as you mentioned, the cavalcade or the ambulance that is now moving is going to be a slow journey for it, because obviously there are hundreds and hundreds of people outside, if not multiple in thousands. The best possible thing that we can see right now is that the crowd is not getting violent. There was some sporadic pushing and shoving of the barricades, but I think they're largely in control. Of course, it's an emotional crowd, and of course, it's a crowd which is watching their leader for on his last journey, literally. And the way they're clinging onto this ambulance kind of reflects the emotion that you have at that point of time.
Yes. In fact, we have R. Kannan, DMK spokesperson, back on Skype with us. R. Kannan is overseas, in fact, and we're going to stay with this visual while I speak with Mr. Kannan. Mr. Kannan, we understand. All right, we'll try and get him back. But we do understand that while this rather somber journey has begun from the hospital to Mr. Karunanidhi's residence in Gopalapuram, the DMK is going to approach the High Court and the Chief Justice of the High Court in the middle of the night, asking for an emergency hearing for their right or their request to bury Mr. Karunanidhi at Marina Beach. And Ram, very, very senior veteran journalist joining me on Skype at this point from Chennai. Mr. Ram, I thank you for your time.
I'm in London, actually. I'm in London.
Oh, you're in London. I beg your pardon. From what you're picking up at this point, we understand the DMK is going to approach the High Court, seeking Marina Beach as a burial place for Karunanidhi. They're asking for, under extraordinary circumstances, for a hearing tonight. So they've approached the Chief Justice for an appointment, from what we understand. But do you believe that the situation has the potential to flare up?
I hope not. The government should not be so petty and cite all kinds of technical issues. There's no real legal bar now that case has been withdrawn. And it's well known that Mr. Karunanidhi made a request, expressed his desire to be buried next to another. He just wanted a small plot. He's told many people about it, I know that. After his contributions to the state and the country, I think it'll be petty and in fact outrageous if they don't, if this doesn't happen. So I don't know why these obstructions are being placed by the state government. The chief minister should know better than this. All kinds of petty are cited for the obvious thing. Lalita was very. In fact, I had a conversation with Sashikala soon after. I asked her, did Jayalalitha leave any instruction? She said no. She said it was her decision, and she looked at Kamaraj Memorial and the Rajaji Memorial, but didn't want to leave her there. She said that the most appropriate place would be at MGR's memorial, and there is no mention of anything. Only no new memorials can be built, but you can, if one memorial can accommodate this, that's fine. And as for if she could be buried there, what justification has anyone to try to obstruct or raise petty questions on where to bury Mr. Karunanidhi, particularly given his desire to be there? I don't think any political meaning needs to be read into this. Just because he's buried there is not it doesn't go against the AIDMK. It's just that I don't know why they're being so petty, or why these questions arise, and why they have to go to the court if they are going to do that.
Ideally.
But, absolutely, Mr. Raman. We understand there are sporadic reports coming in of protests, Rasta Rokos, you know, throwing stones on buses from across the state of Tamil Nadu. So obviously the cadre is also not taking this very well. And the fact that on a night when Stalin and his family members have lost their, you know, their father and their leader, if they're having to approach the court, this would obviously then bring out a graver sense of perhaps injustice from the cadre of the DMK.
Yes, I would expect there would be a very strong reaction if it got out that this government is standing in the way of just a simple act of fulfilling Mr. Karunanidhi's desire, which he has expressed to several people. I know that, including journalists, that he said all he requires is a small plot for him right next to Annadurai. And it's indisputable that after Annadurai, he was the top leader of the undivided DMK. It's only later they split. And I mean, EPS and OPS can't possibly claim any closeness, greater closeness to Annadurai than, or even Jayalalitha for that matter, couldn't, than Mr. Karunanidhi, Kalaignar. And it will be seen as unjust, and it's completely needless to do this. So I can't believe why this is happening. And I hope these reports are not true. But you seem to be well informed on the subject, and obviously word has got around so that there's already this reaction that you referred to.
Yes.
Sense should prevail. Sense should prevail on the government.
Absolutely. Well, let me read out to you a translation of the Chief Secretary's note, Mr. Ram. It says, since there are a lot of cases pending with the Honorable High Court, and there are technicalities involved in allotting a place for burial at the Marina Beach on Kamraj Salai, to facilitate, we've instead allotted 2 acres of land for the late Shri Karunanidhi on Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel Road instead. So, what is your reaction to that justification? That because the matter is sub judice with the High Court, that is why the land cannot be allotted at this point?
You don't have to be a lawyer to know that if there is no restraining orders, stay order on this, you're free to go ahead and do it. And courts can't decide on this all the time. These are also questions of how people feel, public sentiment. There's no real legal bar. It's not illegal to do it. And just because a case is pending doesn't mean that there's a bar, the gate is closed. So the Chief Secretary, assuming the Chief Secretary made up her own mind on this, I think this can be ignored. And I think they can just go ahead, and I don't think they can be stopped, actually, if they really want to.
That's an interesting, I don't think, I mean, obviously, Mr. Ram, if the Prime Minister is visiting tomorrow and there will be arrangements that need to be made, I don't think anyone could perhaps just go ahead and do this, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm amazed at who's counseling the incumbent Chief Minister. I'm really amused. I'm really amazed at who's actually providing this counsel, because I just, for my life, cannot understand the upside of what the current government seems to believe it has. By denying this, they are not only risking a potential volatile situation, they are risking public sentiment of more than half of the state.
Yes.
Plus, there is nothing really to be gained by it. I really don't know what is the benefit.
Politically speaking, aren't they also at this point risking turning Stalin into a tragic hero?
Absolutely.
Because people are now going to empathize with Stalin and his entire, and Kanimori and the entire family, saying you lost your father and you are having to go to court to ask for the right to fulfill his final wishes.
And conversely, I don't see what the benefit is for the current government by denying one of the tallest leaders, and everybody in the party. I'm sure even AIDMK would concede that Karunanidhi was one of the tallest leaders of the state that they've ever had. By denying that person his last wish and the wish of his cadres, what is the benefit that the AIDMK is going to derive from it is something that is beyond me. And I really don't know who's advising the Chief Minister on this kind of a decision, because this is clearly a recipe for disaster going forward, not just politically, but also in terms of the way that you're administering the state.
And you know, from the DMK's point of view, like Mr. Ram told us, that this was a wish that Mr. Karunanidhi constantly mentioned, that this is what he wanted. This is where he wanted his burial place to be. Also, mentally speaking, you know, the imagery going down in history, you have the tallest or the most important leaders of the state buried in a row in the same place. the DMK would perhaps never be okay with having Mr. Karunanidhi buried somewhere else. Mr. Ram, do you believe that this was perhaps a terrible decision politically for the EPS-OPS duo to have made at this point?
Hey, you hinted at a Greek tragedy, and actually in Greek philosophy there's a term called akrasia, A-K-R-A-S-I-A. Akrasia is to do what you know to be wrong, to do what you know to be against your own interests, and the question therefore is why do it? And I agree with the opinion just expressed that we can't understand this sense, how it serves their own interests, how it can be otherwise, the stupidity of it, the acratic behavior that seems to be flagged now. I hope it doesn't last long, and because they are really asking for trouble if they deny this simple wish. All that is required is a small space right in the Anna Memorial on the Marina, and no court is going to say no to it and so on. So I don't know why this matter should go to the court at all. There's no restraining order.
Okay. Radhika Ramsesan joins us right now, consulting editor for the Business Standard as well. In the studio with me, Vinay Tiwari, and on Skype we have Mr. N. Ram. Radhika ji, thank you for joining us. The big flashpoint at this point that we're looking at while the ambulance moves from the hospital to the residence is the question of the location of burial. And we do know that the DMK will face off with the current government on this one particular point. Radhika, are you surprised with the decision that the government has taken in the state?
Okay, you're asking me? Yeah,
Yes,
I
yes,
am very surprised because no matter how... Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Hello? Yeah, no matter how embittered the relations were between the DMK and the AIDMK and perhaps its various factions, I mean, you don't, the Karunanidhi sort of reigned over the state like a colossus, you know. In fact, I mean, he played such a huge role in national politics. And decency, decorum, protocol demands that one doesn't make an issue about where he's going to be buried just because he was not a sitting chief minister. I mean, come on. I mean, this is really shocking. It's appalling. It's just a question of giving him a little space next to Annadurai. I mean, that's the desire the family expressed. And after all, he was one of the pillars of the Dravid movement. Let's not forget it. Forget that, one of the strong pillars of the Dravid movement. So it's justifiable. I mean, it isn't even a demand. I mean, courtesy sort of calls for a gesture like this. I mean, it's utterly appalling. Yeah.
It is, it's a strong point there, utterly appalling, Vinay. And my concern is how they're going to manage to control this situation. And remember, everybody's sitting on a ticking time bomb at this point because the Prime Minister is visiting tomorrow. And the SPG likes to keep things very, sort of sanitized.
Yes, and I think for the entire administration, it's not, the Prime Minister definitely yes, but there are a host of other dignitaries and state chief ministers who are going to arrive. The administration needs time to prepare. They need the time to figure out who's going to come from which side and all. I think what Radhika mentioned, used the word appalling. I would agree with that word simply because it's not as if the EPS-OPS combined started thinking about it only past 6:10 this evening. Surely they would have, this is a considered decision. This is something that they've actually thought of. They've discussed it, debated it, and then arrived at a decision of denying it, which is what makes it even more appalling. This kind of a mistake can be made in a spur of the moment decision, but for someone to actually think this through.
And they've had, yes.
And they've had time because obviously he was unwell for a while.
Yes.
He's been in very critical condition, so they clearly have thought it out. And if this is the result of a thought out decision, it clearly tells you that frankly the art of politics is now lost on the next generation that is going to take over on Tamil Nadu politics.
Well, I'm going to take that point to Mr. N. Ram. Mr. Ram, do you agree that politics is currently lost on this second generation because of the manner in which they're reacting? I mean, it's easy to assume that they've had at least 10 days to make this decision. They've been back and forth negotiations. It's what we've picked up from the grapevine. But yet somehow everyone on this panel agrees that the decision the state government may have made was the wrong one.
I don't think this decision will stay. They can hold on to this decision because the pressure will be so great that there's no way they can deny Mr. Karunanidhi that little bit of space next in the Anna Memorial. So I don't think you can blame it on all the younger generation. I think the DMK has been very dignified about this. In particular, Mr. Stalin. He's not made any big noise or anything, and they just I think they've had some conversations with the government, and particularly with OPS. But I had also heard that the chief minister was making some trouble right at the start. And what on earth is in it for him?
Right.
Nobody can figure out.
Mr. Ram, in fact, we have breaking news coming in. The Madras High Court acting Chief Justice Haluvadi G. Ramesh has agreed to hear this case at 10:30 p.m. tonight. This is the case against the denial of a place at Marina for disposing of Karunanidhi's body. If the papers are in order and the Advocate General is informed about the hearing, from what we understand, that hearing will take place at 10 p.m. tonight at the Madras High Court. The Madras High Court has admitted the plea of the DMK over the burial space. And so here we have the Chief Minister who's made a decision at a very crucial point. And I want to remind our viewers that from 6 p.m. this evening, and Mr. Karunanidhi passed away at 10 past 6, from 6 p.m. this evening, we've had various senior journalists, people in public life, people from both sides of the aisle in the Tamil Nadu government who've agreed that Mr. Karunanidhi was by far the tallest leader in modern Tamil Nadu. And here you have the government who has decided that they will not allow his burial alongside that of Jayalalitha, Annadurai and MGR. So on one hand, they now have, the government will have to, answer in court. And secondly, they will have to bring the situation under control before the VVIP dignitaries visit tomorrow. So they've actually put themselves in a tough position. I take this question to Radhika Ramseshan. Even with the planning that needs to be done for tomorrow with the VVIPs, I mean, the Prime Minister has announced he will visit Chennai tomorrow. That can't be rolled back either. So the government has put itself in a tough position.
Absolutely. This is something, his passing away has not been sudden or unexpected. He's been in the hospital for the past few days. I mean, it was a question of when. It was just a question of when. So, it's absolutely astonishing how the state government has not made preparations. It's squabbling over something very, very inconsequential. I mean, this kind of a thing should not even have arisen. And I think given the dynamics of Tamil Nadu politics and the background, it is something which can only happen in Tamil Nadu. I can't see it happening in any other state, however bitter the relations between the various parties may be. So having said that, a galaxy of VVIPs are descending on the city tomorrow. You have the Prime Minister, you have Rahul Gandhi, and I'm sure you're going to have all the regional biggies descending on Chennai. And what on earth is the government going to do? Is there a government? I mean, Tamil Nadu has a very efficient administration regardless of who rules the state, which party rules the state. So I think it's now incumbent on the administration to get things in order and to get the nuts and bolts together.
Yes, in fact, we have Sanjay Hegde, Senior Advocate with the Supreme Court, who joins us right now out of Delhi. Mr. Hegde, thank you for joining us. Good evening. The latest updates we have at this point, visuals that are live on the screen, are of the ambulance holding the body, carrying the body of Mr. Karunanidhi, moving to his home in Gopalpuram. But from what we understand also, the DMK is approaching the High Court. The Madras High Court has admitted that plea from the DMK to hear the case at 10 p.m. What's your reaction to this, to the fact that Stalin is going to, the DMK is moving to court on the night that it lost its leader?
Totally unnecessary decision on the part of the Tamil Nadu government of the day. There was no interim order from the Madras High Court which prohibited further burials. It's also possibly some kind of little bit of revenge politics of a petty nature which is being played out, because After all, the petitioners before the Madras High Court who had challenged Jayalalitha's burial on Marina, maybe somebody in the Anna DMK hierarchy thinks that it is payback time now. Now is not the time for petty politics. Now is not the time for revenge. And at the end of the day, I doubt very much that the Madras High Court will put in any impediment if the government of the day as well as the petitioners, that is the DMK, come to some kind of understanding that the burial does indeed take place next to Anna. This is unnecessary controversy at a moment of grief. There is a certain dignity at funeral time, and there are certain protocols and niceties which are never breached. The Anna DMK should well remember that Dr. Kalaignar did, despite all the bitterness, come for MGR's funeral. These niceties have to be observed, and all differences die with the man. This is taking revenge politics a bit too far, and I doubt that any court will countenance that. To my mind, it is but a question of time that the final decision is taken, that there is no legal impediment to Mr. Karunanidhi being buried at Marina. Of course, if the government of the day wants to act stupid, there's no cure for stupidity.
Well, okay, Sanjay Hegde, they're saying there's no cure for stupidity. Muralidharan Shivalingam, political analyst, and Venkat Narayan, senior political commentator, join us as well out of Chennai. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. So the state government seems to have put itself into a tight position, but the visuals that you're looking at on your screen is of the very slow movement of that ambulance right now between hospital and home. It's a 2-kilometer journey, but it's likely to take a fairly long time. From the announcement that we had received, we were expecting, or the plan was for the body to be available in state at the home between 8:30 and 1 a.m. and from 1 a.m. onwards till about 4 a.m. it would be at Kanimori's house, and after that it would be moved, to the other places that have been part of the plan. But right now, I'm going to bring in my guest, Muralidharan Shivalingam. This moment of mourning being now disrupted by a court case over the place of burial.
Yeah, Faye.
Yes. Muralidharan,
Faye, can you come again?
Yes, my question was, has the state government made what Sanjay Hegde is calling a foolish decision or a stupid decision?
Yeah, Mr. Sanjay Hegde can say whatever he wants, but he's not on the ground, right? And this discussion is not happening just today. It's been happening for a week now, and Mr. Stalin is also aware of it. There's one problem, which is the High Court intervention. Even when Amma was buried there were some issues. So that's one. We have to, think about that. And second, it's no point, trying to make this issue, blow this issue out of proposition and create law and order situation. And now that rightfully, I think the DMK has gone to the High Court, and let's get a High Court note and do it. And moreover, Faye, I don't know, everybody's talking about this, but did anyone know what's Mr. Karunanidhi's will? What was he? Does he want to be buried next to his arch rival?
One second. No, one second. In fact, we do have someone who had a conversation with Mr. Karunanidhi about this. Mr. N. Ram is with us at this point. Mr. Ram, do you want to answer that question? Muralidharan says that would Karunanidhi have wanted to have been buried? Would he have wanted to have been buried next to a rival?
No, it's the Anna Memorial. It's not the MGR Memorial. And Karunanidhi, Mr. Karunanidhi and MGR got on pretty well at a personal level throughout their career, even during the period of intense political rivalry or competition. But I can confirm that Mr. Karunanidhi has expressed a desire to several people, including people I know, including a journalist, that he wanted to be buried right next to Anna in a small space. All he asked for is a small space. I can confirm that. And this can easily be verified once the reporters go out and talk to people. Yeah.
Mr. Muralidharan, you want to respond to that now? We've got you a confirmation of what he wanted.
Very good. Very good. So Faye, we knew about this, not now, even for many years now, as Mr. Ram says. So, I mean, shouldn't that be the responsibility of the DMK to ensure that anything untoward happens and this should have been taken care? I mean, they should have spoken to the government long back. And see, these are things, last minute, knee-jerk reaction. See, we had the demise of Amma also, but it went off very smoothly and there was no,
No, but first of all, Mr. Muller, with all due respect to you, at this moment of grief, this was hardly knee-jerk. From what we understood, the conversation with the state government was on for at least a week and a half. This is a moment of grief, it's not a moment of surprise. People were expecting, and we knew that his vitals were failing for a while. So I don't understand your argument at this point. It does seem like the state government has put itself in a very difficult position.
I don't think so, Faye. I don't think so. I think we need to see through the whole thing, They have moved the High Court. Let the High Court come and reply, because it's the High Court which was, pointing fingers, saying that, how can you turn Marina into a, burial ground? That was an issue with High Court. So I think let the High Court
And Mr. Muller, when did the High Court say that?
All of them had issues.
When did the High Court say that? Before or after Jayalalitha's funeral?
When all this while, no, it was there for some time. It was not yesterday. It's been there for some time. But my point is, even a place like Gandhi Mandapam, which are I think Gandhi Mandapam compared to Marina, it's much more nicer, and 2 acres is a huge space which he may not get in Marina. So that's my point. And sharing next to Anna Samadhi, okay, then some people have some sentiments of old timers, but for the younger generation, I think we feel the Gandhi Mandapam, where next to lying next to Gandhiji is, I think, much more significant for Mr. Karunanidhi than going to
Mr. Muralidharan obviously has a difficult job here, where he's defending the indefensible, Vinay, but the arguments are not holding up, because if you believe that the second option was the better option, then why is it that the AIDMK insisted on burying Ms. Jayalalitha at Marina, in spite of the fact that the High Court order that they're referring to came before that funeral and not after?
Yeah, I'm astounded that at a time and place like this, the party is actually offering explanations through technicalities, legal precedences, all of which have been bypassed and very easily managed over the last 1 year or so. I'm amazed. And I'm also very curious to know what is the political capital the party believes they'll get by actually doing something. Yes. This is not an Indian ethos. You do not deny a person's last wish. That's a very Indian thing. How can you ever expect that by denying somebody his last wish, you would actually win some brownie points? I don't understand where those brownie points are going to come from. No Indian would ever accept a situation where, no matter how bitter your enemy is, where you've denied somebody his last wish on a purely and a very technical grounds. All the reasons, all grounds which could be easily bypassed by a government of the day. A government of a day is a very powerful being. It's easily possible for the government to bypass any sub-clauses or sections in law, entirely possible to do it. And I'm amazed that the NRDMK doesn't seem to see that there is a loss of political capital and not any gain by taking the stand that they have in the current situation, irrespective of what the court says at midnight tonight.
Absolutely. And I want Mr. Ram to respond, and ask all of my guests to respond to this. Mr. Ram, what is your response to Mr. Muralidharan's arguments that, the option that we've given you near Anna University is actually a nice option, so why are you saying no? It seems like a very weak argument at this point.
I can tell you that soon after Jayalalitha died, Ms. Shashikala wanted to meet me. I met her, and one of the questions I asked her was, did Chief Minister Jayalalitha leave any instructions on how she should be cremated or buried? And she said, no, I had to decide. And she said, I went to see look at the other place, the Rajaji, Kamaraj Memorial and Rajaji Memorial. Then she broke down and said, I didn't want to leave her alone there. Then she said she thought up the idea. She knew MGR, and MGR would he'd look after her in the afterworld and so on. Tonaya Irpar, he said in Tamil. And that's how it happened. So it's ridiculous to hide behind the chief secretary or a High Court order that doesn't exist. There's no restraining order. That is a fact. Mr. Sanjay Hegde mentioned that. We know that for a fact. There is no interim order restraining this, standing in the way of what Mr. Karunanidhi wanted. And and I agree that No court is going to deny him this minimum mark of respect.
But
Fulfilling his small desire. He used to always ask untold for a small plot next to it, a very small plot, just enough for his body to be buried there. And it is, I can't believe the stupidity behind this whole, this game. And we knew it was happening. So no amount of justification, as you said, justifying the indefensible. So don't waste your television time on discussing it. Let's wait and see what happens.
So this is where we have it. 10:30 p.m. is when the case will be heard. From what we understand, the proposal was rejected on legal issues, but the case will be heard at 10 o'clock today. Sanjay Hegde, Venkat Narayan still with us. Sanjay Hegde, now we have both you and Mr. Ram using the word stupid with regard to the decision made by the state government. But the good news is, while good news will be hard to come by on an evening like this, the good news is that I haven't received any fresh updates or fresh news of unrest in the state. It does seem like the sporadic, sort of reaction that we saw, that's where it has stopped. The police might have managed to get it under control. So on one hand, at least that situation hasn't spiraled out of the control of the state government.
Whenever some great personality dies in Tamil Nadu, or we've even seen it in Karnataka after the death of Rajkumar, there has been unrest, there have been shocks, there have been suicides and all kinds of things. An administration is normally supposed to be prepared for that. There was one little line that came to my mind on this burial issue.
Yes.
Many years ago, Bahadur Shah Zafar wrote, "है इतनी बदनसीब तो जफर दफन के लिए 2 गज ज़मीन भी ना मिली कुएं यार में." That is, you're so unfortunate that you did not get two yards to be buried in the Strait of the Beloved. That was because the British denied him burial in Delhi. In free India, I doubt that an Indian government can allow a fallen adversary even to be denied burial where ultimately he and public sentiment want him to be. It is a time, it's a place for rest. It is time to bid goodbye to the man. Please bid goodbye with good grace. You don't need court orders for such things. Governments cannot have to look fair. They cannot look ridiculous. And this is just ridiculous.
Well, I'm going to go across to Venkat Narayan, senior political commentator. Mr. Narayan, in an incident that a lot of people wouldn't want to remember on a night like this, when at one point Jayalalitha became Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, she had Mr. Karunanidhi arrested in the most unceremonious manner. That visual is probably etched in the minds of most people who saw it at that point. He was literally dragged out of his house by the police, screaming that, "Oh my God, they're going to kill me." And at that point, he won a lot of sympathy from the people because people saw this as partisan behavior on the part of the Chief Minister. Is this another mistake being made by the AIDMK, where the people of Tamil Nadu are going to see this as ungraceful and political, and perhaps there will be, the current Chief Minister is going to lose some support over this? All right, we seem to have lost that connection. Vinay, that question then to you and Mr. Ram. Will the current AIDMK Chief Minister lose support of his people because they'll see this, as all of our guests have called it, as unnecessary and political at a time when he should have been more graceful?
Yes, and I think that perhaps also indicates the kind of future that Tamil Nadu has in front of us. I mean, with the passing away of Jayalalitha and Karunanidhi, you've probably have the end of the politically wise in a state. Clearly, what is happening right now is neither wise nor does it have any concept of maturity or grace in it. And now this is the kind of pettiness that you would expect from politicians who do not use wisdom at all. No other politician in the past in that state would have taken a decision like this, because it makes absolutely no sense to do something which is so un-Indian in its way, where you deny somebody his last right, last wish, to something as simple as being buried at the spot that one wants to. So as I said, I'm astounded at the lack of wisdom here over what they believe could be the potential gain in denying somebody and so publicly, and at a time which is so emotive in nature, for a leader who's arguably someone who's held in very high esteem by people across the political spectrum.
So I know Mr. Muralidharan wants to respond, but first let me just read out the news that's coming in. The Prime Minister of India will leave Delhi at 7:30 tomorrow morning and will arrive at Chennai at 10 a.m. So like we said, the clock is ticking on this one. So the decisions will have to be made overnight. Preparations will need to be ready before the Prime Minister lands in Chennai. They can't have it, they can't have a grey area of any sort when dignitaries of that, that seniority are coming into the city. I'm going back to Muralidharan. Mr. Muralidharan, this could have been unnecessary. This could have been avoided completely. What is your reaction now? And we also understand that the hearing will be held at the residence of the Chief Justice. Mr. Muralidharan, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, see, let's wait for the hearing to happen because, see, we really don't know what really transpired. Why did this, why did we have to wait till the last minute to decide on this? I'm sure this was conveyed much earlier and not today. So if it's conveyed already much earlier, I mean, DMK could have gone to the court much earlier and got a verdict by now. Why did they wait till the last minute? These are questions we don't know what happened. We know what transpired between the the Chief Minister and Mr. Stalin. So how can we comment, as though it might sound and look very petty and, stupid, as Mr. Ram kept saying, but we don't know what happened, right? So we know what's the actual reason is. So we need to wait and see.
So we do know in less than an hour's time, it's now 9:30, it's in less than an hour's time at 10:30, the Madras High Court will hear this case. From what we understand, the Chief Justice will hear it at his residence. And we will have the answer. Now, we need to have this answer for a couple of reasons. One, because we understand the Prime Minister will land in the state at 10 a.m. tomorrow, and normally before dignitaries begin to arrive, the police will need this information in order to have their bandobast ready, in order to have their routes mapped out, to understand which way the processions are going to move. For all of that planning to happen, this decision will need to be taken. So the hearing will be held at 10:30 tonight. Like Mr. Muralidharan was saying, we don't understand or we don't know the conversations that would have happened, but the big question, Mr. Muralidharan, is what political gain did the state government think it would gain by making this decision, which was what Vinay Tiwari asked some time ago. Radhika Ramsesan, consulting editor of the Business Standard. What do you think would have been the motive behind this decision?
I mean, I mean, the motive, it's just reflects a total bankruptcy, ideological, political. I mean, it's not even smart politics. It's nothing. I mean, the least that you can give a person, a dead person, is dignity. That's all. I don't know really what the inside story is, what Mr. Karunanidhi wanted, whether he wanted to be buried next to Annadurai, but it is in the fitness of things that he's buried next to his mentor. I mean, let's not forget, he was as invaluable to Annadurai as Anna was to him. So I just don't understand what it is. And if the AIDMK wants to play politics, and this is a salutary warning to the BJP has been hobnobbing with various factions of the AIDMK. They should realize this is what this party is all about. It's cheap politics. I'm sorry, I mean, to have to use a harsh phrase like that, but it is. It's just cheap politics.
Politics, in fact...
It's a free show, ma'am. You can say whatever you want.
In fact, we have Mr. One second. I have Mr. Sarvanan
from... It's a moment of grief. I mean, let's,
No, but Mr. Muralidharan, in a moment of grief, to deny the mourners the request of burial...
Yeah, a moment of grief. Why do we have to talk about this? We are sitting in front of a TV
and to make them go to court.
We're sitting in front of a camera and talking all these, and Mr. Ram is coming and telling... Mr. Ram is saying that Karunanidhi told him, why should I believe him? Why should anybody believe him? Mr. Ram is related to him. Do you know that? So he might say whatever he feels like. And people here can instigate it, further. Well, and there could be a law and order situation. Tomorrow, 5 people could die. Why are we doing this? I mean, I don't understand. Why are we doing this? sitting in, foul-mouthing ADMK.
All right.
Mr.
Mr. Muralidharan, one second. Let me actually go across to Mr. Saravanan of the DMK, who's currently, from what we understand, in the residence of the Chief Justice of the Madras High Court with the team that is currently, was requesting for the hearing and is there for the hearing. Mr. Saravanan, first of all, my condolences to you and your party members and the people who are with you at this point. Could you give us an update about the hearing? What will your appeal be? What exactly are you asking the court for?
Faye, we are inconsolable. We are totally distraught. But this ADMK government is not even allowing us to mourn in peace. We wanted a place for our leader to be buried, which is his wish, which is the wish of the millions of the party cadres and all the other general public, but for petty political reasons. Just because they have power, just because they want to spite us, and just because of their arrogance. This ADMK government has refused to give the land to us for the flimsiest of the reasons and silliest of the reasons, frivolous reasons. They say that some cases are pending and that is why we cannot allot that land to you. We are asking that land, which does not have any other legal issues. It does not have legal embargo. It is not barred by any law or anything. It is clear from all the legal issues. We wanted that thing. And we requested the Chief Minister, our leader, Mr. MK Stalin, visited him personally and requested him. And so much for courtesy.
Mr. Saravanan, would you tell us the land that you have asked for, will it be part of the existing Annasalai or have you requested a separate memorial?
See, we have requested a place in Marina. If separate land is available, it's fine. If it is there, it is fine. We wanted our leader to be next to his mentor, Faye. That is all what we wanted. We were not making any other demands. And there is no other reason except political spiteness. Apart from that.
How much land have you asked for? Because the state government has granted 2 acres in the alternate location, but did you ask for 2 acres or would you be happier with a smaller piece of land?
We are not about the extent of land here. We are about a place at the marina. Let them give 100 acres outside the city. We don't want that. We are not about quantity. We are here because it is a dead man's wish. He wanted to be there. He always thought that he'll be there. They have shaped together, Faye and our leader, they have shaped the destiny of Tamil Nadu. If the state cannot grant this simple wish, and only because he is there in the Chief Minister's chair and wants to spite it, the people of Tamil Nadu will teach them a hard lesson.
And Mr. Saravanan, you did say that Stalin had spoken with the Chief Minister personally with this request. Can you? Yes. We've had some people from the AIDMK call this a knee-jerk, last-minute request. Could you tell us how long ago did Stalin speak with the Chief Minister regarding the location?
It was there in every other news outlet, media around today afternoon. He went with a delegation of the senior party leaders.
Okay.
He met him at his residence or at the secretariat. It was there in all over the news. So when can we ask? Can we ask that we need a place to bury our leader 1 week ago? We can ask only when there is no hope, when every resort has been tried, everything has been tried and there is no hope. Only then we can make such a request. Can we make this request a month ago, a year ago? How absurd is this argument?
And Mr. Saravanan, who is with you right now at the CJI's residence?
We just finished. We finished. We mentioned with the acting Chief Justice by 9:15. Mr. Wilson, senior advocate, Mr. Neelakantan, and few other advocates, Mr. Girirajan and few other advocates along with me were here. And Mr. Wilson made a request to the Chief Justice.
Yes.
And the acting Chief Justice said he will hear the case at 10:30. He said he wanted the papers to be served to the Advocate General and the Chief Secretary. He also instructed to inform the Advocate General to get instructions from the Chief Secretary about it. And he said, whatever, if it is not possible at 10:30, he said he is willing to even hear the case early morning tomorrow.
Okay. And other than this, obviously the arrangements for the funeral will then, be stalled because you can't make those arrangements until you have this decision from the court. But do you have a plan right now of how you would want tomorrow to play out?
See, we are, I think already for the general public and other leaders to pay homage, we have already been given access to Rajaji Hall, which is a big place, public place, that is going to happen tomorrow. About how they're going to go about it, the top leadership and the family members will take a call on how to go about this issue.
And Mr. Sarvan, obviously this one decision has been upsetting for you, but has the state government been helpful in other matters in terms of police bandobast, in terms of moving the body, which we're seeing right now on our live screens, that is entering the residence?
That is their duty.
Okay.
They can't mess up with that. So they can't say that they have been extremely helpful. That is not what we want. It is their duty. They have to do that. That has to be given to any ordinary citizen. Right to life and liberty, that has to be granted to everybody. So that cannot be, they cannot claim that they have done this, done that. What we wanted is only this. A place at Marina.
Right, and Mr. Sarvan, has there been any other message that has gone out to the cadre of the party to maintain peace other than the first one that came at 7 o'clock? Yes, go ahead.
Our leader, Mr. MK Stalin, has clearly requested the leaders to ensure nobody, it is very incumbent on them to maintain decorum and maintain peace and ensure if anybody else indulges in violence, he said, please identify those people to the authorities. That has been the appeal made out by our leader, and I think I have full confidence that our cadres will follow that.
All right, Mr. Sarvan, I want to thank you for giving us time, because I do understand that it's a crucial point for you, and you will be, of course, preparing for that hearing that will begin in less than 45 minutes now at 10:30. We also have breaking news coming in that the Government of India has announced one-day state mourning. National flag will fly at half-mast in Delhi, Vinay, and in all other states. Radhika Ramsesan still with us. So is Sanjay Hegde. Mr. Hegde, you heard the DMK spokesperson, Sarvanan, speak with us on the phone line. He was talking about how they are at the acting Chief Justice's home. The message has been sent to the Advocate General to communicate with the Chief Secretary. So the Advocate General will, for our audience's benefit, represent the government at this point. What do you think that the chances are at this point for the government? Because the arguments that we've heard so far have not been very convincing.
See, basically the Chief Justice of the... the Chief Justice will probably be checking whether there are any specific orders of stay. If there are no orders of stay, he would then be asking the government as to what exactly the objection is. If there is a stateable objection on the part of the government, then it would have to be examined like any other administrative law issue as to whether those objections stood up to reason, whether it was a reasonable decision for a reasonable administration to take. The key word being reasonable. If it is unnecessary petulance or mere politicking, I doubt that any judge would approve such a measure on the part of the government. The government would have to have very solid reasons as to why burial space could not be granted. Of course, if there has been an earlier order of the court itself which prevents such burials, then it is up to the court to decide whether to amend that order or to clarify it in any manner in the event that it wants to permit this particular burial to take place in Marina. All said and done, I think from what I can gather from Mr. Saranan's conversation, the point is that there are several parts of the Marina Beach where burials seem to be permitted by some government notification or the other. Land could very easily be allotted there. As to whether the government of the day wants to, that is another question. But it cannot simply say, I am the government, I will not give it. It would have to have very valid
better
reasons to
reason,
indicate
yes.
why it chooses not to give it.
Venkat Narayan, senior political commentator, yes, on Skype. I hope we have your audio now. Mr. Narayan, thank you for joining us. Your comment on the fact that on a night when preparation should be made for a state funeral, perhaps the police is already preoccupied with maintaining peace and law and order. We have the parties now going to court. Was this unnecessary?
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely unnecessary. I agree with you. I think the present government of the day is being very, small-minded about the whole thing, because whether you like it or not, Karunanidhi may not have been in power when he died. The fact remains that he dominated Tamil Nadu politics for more than 60 years.
He has been the chief minister for 5 times and MLA for 13 consecutive terms and all that. So he is a big leader, and if his last wish was to be buried next to his hero, Annadurai, I think the least the government of the day could do is to let him be. And I do hope that the Madras High Court in this midnight hearing would clear the burial of Mr. Karunanidhi as per his wish next to Annadurai.
All right, Mr. Venkat Narayan, thank you. If you would stay with us, I would appreciate that. We have to take a quick commercial break, but we're going to stay with the news right now. We understand the live visual, which we will bring to you full frame at this point. That ambulance, that's a live visual that's coming in from Chennai. You'll see it's become sort of a procession. There are DMK supporters who are walking in front of that ambulance, one to clear the way and also to show their support for their leader. They're walking that ambulance home, and we understand that that journey is nearly over and he has arrived at his residence. This is the residence in Gopalpuram. So the ambulance is what you're looking at on your screen. This is live visuals that are coming in from Chennai. We'll take a very, very quick break here on Mirror Now, and we'll come back with more breaking news from Chennai. We're going to stay with the story tonight. Don't go anywhere.